The Indian National Movement. Namaskar, dear learners and listeners. I am Anita Devraj, and today I am going to speak to you on the national movement after the coming of Gandhi and the non-cooperation movement. The revolutionaries. Now, the reactionary policy of the British developed a deep hatred towards them among a section of the younger generation of India. They believed that India could achieve independence only by an organized revolutionary movement. As a result, they organized secret groups to launch revolutionary activities against the British. Youths were trained in aggressive methods of violence as a means of strength against the British. They attempted killing of unpopular British officials, committed dacoities to finance their activities, and looted arms. Many of them, therefore, chose the path of violence to gain independence for India. They were called the revolutionaries. The center of their activities were Punjab, Maharashtra, Bengal, Bihar, Uttar Pradesh, and Orissa. Prominent among these revolutionaries were Khudiram Bose, Prafulla Chake, Bhupendra Nath Dutt, V.D. Savarkar, Sardar Ajit Singh, Lala Hardayal and his Gadar party, Sardar Bhagat Singh, Rajguru, Sukhdev, Chandrasekhar Azad, etc. These revolutionaries organized secret societies, murdered many British officers, disrupted railway traffic, engaged in organized attack on British wealth. In order to overrun the British rule through arms, Kakori conspiracy was planned by Ram Prasad Bismil, Ashfullah Khan and other team members of the Hindustan Republican Association in 1925. In 1928, Hindustan Socialist Republic Association was formed by Chandrasekhar Azad, Bhagat Singh, Bhukteshwar Dutt and others. Bhagat Singh and Bhukteshwar Dutt threw a bomb inside the Central Legislative Assembly on 8th April 1929. They were protesting against the passage of the Public Safety Bill and the Trade Disputes Bill while raising slogans of Inqilab Zindabad, long live the revolution, though no one was killed or injured in the bomb incident. Following the trial in court of this and other cases, Bhagat Singh, Sukhdev and Rajguru were hanged in 1931. Their sacrifice provided an incentive to the people. They were regarded martyrs and became the symbol of national unity and aspirations. Now, a very significant feature of the 20th century was the development of socialist ideas in Congress and outside it. Peasants now started asking for land reforms, abolition of zamindari, and reduction in the revenue and debt relief. The All India Trade Union Congress, which was founded in 1920, worked towards improvement in the workers' working and living condition. It mobilized the workers to the cause of complete independence, which helped the movement to be broad-based. Some of the prominent socialist and communist leaders were M.N. Roy, S.A. Dangi, Abnin Mukhopadhyay, Nalini Gupta, Muzaffar Ahmad, Shaukat Usmani, Ghulam Hussain and Singravelu Chettiar, G.M. Adhikari and P.C. Joshi. They outlined the course of the revolution through transformation of individual strike into a general political strike, the development of spontaneous peasant movements, a nationwide movement for complete independence, as well as the spread of revolutionary propaganda amongst the police and the army. Struggle against imperialism was the rallying slogan. In 1936, when Nehru was the president of the Congress, he declared at the Lucknow session that the solution to India's problems lay in the adoption of socialist ideas. Nehru was deeply influenced by Karl Marx. Even Subhash Chandra Bose was influenced by socialist ideas. Because of differences with Gandhi, Bose resigned from the Congress and formed his own forward bloc. The policy of divide and rule was inaugurated right in the days of the East India Company, when the Britishers were establishing themselves as the rulers of India. We have already discussed how the company set one Indian ruler against the other, and ultimately it became the undisputable ruler. You have seen that in the latter half of the 19th century, nationalism started growing. Now, the British government found it prudent to vitalize their policies of divide and rule and drive a wedge between the Hindus and Muslims. The British had looked upon the Muslims with disfavor and suspicion since the revolt of 1857. But now they realized that in order to counteract the growing nationalism, time had come to appease the Muslims. The government seized every opportunity to set the Indians against one another on the basis of religion and creating hostility between them. Ultimately, in accordance with this policy, separate electorates for Muslims were established. We have talked about the formation of the Muslim League, which sowed the seeds of communalism. The Communal Award of 1932 was a continuance of this policy. Because of seats to the depressed classes also, separate electorates were first demanded by the Muslims in 1906 and introduced for them under the Maulley Minto reforms of 1907. This was done with a view to building up Muslim communalism as a counterpoise against Indian nationalism. Under the Montfort reforms, they were extended for Sikhs, for the Europeans, for the Anglo-Indians, Indian Christians, etc. Under the Act of 1935, 17 separate electorates were constituted. In reality, communal electorates were an unmixed evil. They hampered the growth of national unity. The two-nation theory appeared in 1938 and was clearly communicated by Jinnah in 1940. Once the demand for Pakistan was made, it received direct and indirect encouragement from British authorities. The immediate cause of the emergence of the demand for Pakistan was the refusal of the Congress to form coalition ministries after the elections of 1937. The country seemed to be drifting towards anarchy and ruin. Under the circumstances, partition was accepted as a necessary evil. The only way of getting rid of British rule and preventing a complete breakdown of law and order. Now, the British government prepared a white paper in March 1933. On the basis of this white paper, a bill was prepared and introduced in Parliament in December 1934. The bill was finally passed as the Government of India Act on August 2, 1935. The most conspicuous feature of the Act of 1935 was the concept of an all India federation comprising the provinces of British India and the princely states. It was compulsory for the provinces to join the proposed federation. For the princely states, it was voluntary. The members from the provinces were to be elected, while the representatives of the states were to be nominated by the rulers. Only 14% of the population in British India had the right to vote. The powers of the legislature were confined and restricted. It had no control over defense and foreign relations. The Act protected British vested interests, discouraging the emergence of national unity, rather encouraging separation and communalism. All nationalists, including Nehru and Jinnah, condemned the Act. The Congress session met in Lucknow on 25th April 1935. Though the Act was condemned, it was decided to contest the elections to resist British imperialism and to end the various regulations, ordinances and acts which were initiated against Indian nationalism. In the 1937 elections, the Congress swept the poll. Congress ministries were formed in 7 out of the 11 provinces. On March 18, 1937, the All India Congress Committee adopted a resolution on Congress policies in the legislatures. It claimed that the Congress had contested the elections with its objective of independence and its total rejection of the new constitution and the demand for a constituent assembly to frame India's constitution. The Congress declared policy was to combat the new act and end it. Now, the immediate effect of the coming of the Congress ministries was a feeling of relief. Political prisoners were released and a large measure of civil liberty was established. Agrarian legislation was also passed, and this provided considerable relief to the peasantry. Basic education was intended to be made free and compulsory for every child. Now, let us see the national movement during the Second World War. Do you remember that when the Second World War broke out? Yes, it broke out in 1939. Though the Congress attitude was one of sympathy, it refused unconditional cooperation. The Congress demanded that India must be declared an independent union and present application must be given to the status to the largest possible extent. The British did not agree, and as a result, all the ministries resigned in protest in 1939. A demand for provisional national government at the centre was made at the instance of C. Rajagopalanchari in 1940. It was turned down by the Viceroy, Lord Linlithgow. In October 1940 was launched the Civil Disobedience Campaign. Acharya Vinoba Bhave was the first to offer individual satyagraha. All India Committee of the Cabinet with Attlee as chairperson was set up and a draft declaration was made. In March 1942, Sir Stafford Cripps came to India with the draft declaration. It stated that the British government's desire to grant India dominion status at the end of the war will be done. Complete independence was not promised. There was no mention of a national government of the Indian people. The Congress rejected the offer. The Muslim League, opposed to the creation of a single union, found the scheme unacceptable as it did not unequivocally concede Pakistan. The Cripps mission failed. The struggle for independence was carried on by Subhash Chandra Bose from abroad. He found the outbreak of the Second World War to be a convenient opportunity to strike a blow for the freedom of India. Bose had been put under house arrest in 1940, but he managed to escape to Berlin on March 28, 1941. The Indian community there acclaimed him as the leader, Netaji. He was greeted with Jai Hind, salute to the motherland. He tried to raise an Indian army and urge his country people to rise in arms against the British. In 1942, the Indian Independence League was formed and a decision was taken to form the Indian National Army for the liberation of India. On an invitation from Ras Bihari Bose, Subhash Chandra Bose came to East Asia on June 13, 1943. He was made president of the India Independence League, Azad Hind Fauj. He gave the famous battle cry, Chalo Dilli. He promised independence to Indians saying, Tum mujhe khoon do, main tumhe azadi dunga. You give me blood, I'll give you freedom. In March 1944, the Indian flag was hoisted at Kohima. Unfortunately, after that, the movement collapsed. What happened to Netaji remains a mystery. It is said that he lost his life in an air crash in August 1945, but it could not be ascertained. The INA continued to occupy an honored place in India's freedom struggle. The intense patriotism of Bose and the soldiers of the INA proved a tremendous source of inspiration for the Indian people. Now, the failure of the Cripps mission made the Indians frustrated and embittered. It was felt the time had now come for launching another mass movement against the British rule. Discontent of Indian people was increasing due to wartime shortages and growing unemployment. there was a constant danger of Japanese attack. The Indian leaders were convinced that India would be a victim of Japanese aggression only because of British presence in India. Gandhiji said, "The presence of the British in India is an invitation to Japan to invade India." Subhash Chandra Bose, who escaped from India in 1941, repeatedly spoke over radio from Berlin, arousing anti-British feeling which gave rise to pro-Japanese sentiments. The Congress under Gandhiji felt that the British must be compelled to accept India's demands or quit the country. A meeting of the Congress Working Committee in Wardha passed the Quit India Resolution on 14 July 1942, which was later endorsed and passed on 8 August at the Bombay session of the Congress. The Congress decided to launch a mass struggle on non-violent lines on the widest possible scale. Addressing the Congress delegates on the night of 8th August, Gandhiji, in a soul-stirring speech, said, "I therefore want freedom immediately, this very night before the dawn, if it can be had. I am not going to be satisfied with anything short of complete freedom. Here is a mantra, a short one that I give you. You may imprint on your hearts and let every breath of yours give expression to it. The mantra is, do or die. We shall either free India or die in the attempt. We shall not live to see the perpetuation of slavery." But before the Congress leaders could start the movement formally, all important leaders of Congress were arrested before the dawn of August 9, 1942. Congress was banned and declared as an illegal organization. The press was censored. The news of the arrest of popular leaders shocked the nation. Their anger and their resentment was expressed through numerous agitations, hartals, processions and demonstrations in all the parts of the country. With most of the important leaders in jail, the movement took a different shape at different places. The people gave vent to their anger by burning government buildings, police stations, post offices, anything that symbolized British authority. Railways and telegraph lines were disconnected. At some places, such as in Balia district in UP, Midnapur district of West Bengal and Satara in Bombay, the revolt took a serious turn. Inspired by the mantra of Gandhiji, do or die, people were ready to make the supreme sacrifice. The British, with his army and police, came down heavily on the Indian people. The people were shot indiscriminately. The Quit India movement became one of the greatest mass movements of historical significance. It demonstrated the depth of national sentiments and indicated the capacity of the Indian people for sacrifice and determined struggle. After this movement, there was no retreat, absolutely none. Independence of India was no longer a matter of bargain, it was to be a reality. At the end of the war in 1945, the British government started to talk about the transfer of power to Indian Hindus and Muslims. The first round of talks could not be successful because Muslim leaders thought that the Muslim League was the only one who could represent Indian Muslims. The Congress did not agree upon it. In 1946, the cabinet mission arrived in India to find a mutually agreed solution of the Indian problem. The mission held talks with the leaders of all prominent political parties and then proposed its plan of establishing federal government in India. Initially, the plan was criticized by all political parties, but later all gave their consent to it. When the election to the Constituent Assembly took place, the Congress won 199 seats and the Muslim League won 73. Differences soon arose between the Congress and the Muslim League concerning the powers of the Constituent Assembly. The League rejected the cabinet mission plan in the middle of 1946. In September 1946, the Congress formed the government at the center. The League refused to be a part to it. Muslim League celebrated this day as a direct action day on 16th August 1946 to attain Pakistan. The conflict resulted in widespread communal riots in different parts of India. Thousands of people were killed in the riots. Lakhs of people became homeless. In the meantime, Lord Mountbatten was sent as the Viceroy to India. He put up his plan in June 1947, which included partition of India. In spite of strong opposition by Gandhi, all the parties agreed to the partition and the Indian Independence Act 1947 came into being. It created two independent states in the Indian subcontinent, that is, Indian Union and Pakistan. India got her independence on 15th August 1947. Thank you.